Horror. Horror comes in a lot of forms and sizes. Horror games are a good example of this. You can have a game like Island, which takes 30 or so minutes to complete, or something like Resident Evil Village, which is a 9.5 hour experience. Now, I'm too much of a pussy to play or watch horror, but I'm fascinated with the following that horror has around it. In this video, we'll be looking at what makes horror games good. With the help of some experts on the matter, we'll be looking at the psychology of horror, the processes of making such games, and what consumers think good horror is. Hi, I'm Kane, and I just woke up. To understand what makes horror games good, we first need to understand what horror is. In a small survey, the general answer is that horror is scary and it's meant to scare people, with the two most interesting answers being horror is scary, horror is provoking, horror is real, and the general discomfort created through a masterful build of tension and suspense. This is the most widely accepted definition of horror, but Colton Squavier, an expert researcher on morbid curiosity and horror, came up with his own definition.
I like to think of horror as a genre where the antagonist is trying to harm you, and they're much more powerful than you are.
This definition is interesting as most horror games/movies have the antagonist go against the player trying to kill them, and sometimes the best horror games don't rely on killing you. After asking popular YouTuber Josh Strife Hayes, he had to say this about the matter. Letting the player be afraid of what might kill them while not killing them. This I think can be taken the wrong way. Having a horror game without the possibility of death is what Mr. Hayes implied, but having a game that does not rely on the aspect of the player dying and focuses on environments, lights and sounds can be a lot better compared to a game that kills you very frequently. But also, if you go to the other extreme and save the player from every possibility of death, it will take away from the experience of the game, and show that the player has a lot more power compared to the antagonist, as when they die they'll come back to life, showing the player that there is no danger. Now, there is no Goldilocks zone on how much you have to kill the player. Also, going to these extremes can still be very scary, but it's all situational. David Szymanski, a popular game dev and the person behind games like Dusk and Iron Lung, said this.
And if you scroll through the Iron Lung Steam reviews, you'll notice that it doesn't always get communicated to some people. Like, there are a good handful of reviews that are like, this is incredibly boring, it's just creepy noises, like what is the point? It didn't work for those people. So, like, figuring out when you have, like, an idea for a scare or a premise or something like that, then figuring out how to communicate that in a really effective way that's going to work for as wide a range of people as you can, that's really the difficult part, and it's not something you get right every time.
Everyone likes something different about each game. That be the fast action combat in Overwatch, but some like Overwatch for the personality. Same with horror games. People will like different aspects about each game, from the characters, environments, and sounds. All these things can be things people like. But like that lightning strike that everybody talks about when they wake up in the morning, game needs that also. The big moment. The moment that is unexpected and people will talk about it.
Like when you take a picture and the monster eye is there. That's like the big moment everyone remembers. It's like the eyeball is the one that's like the crown jewel moment of the game. If you took that same scare idea and put it into what I would consider another extremely good horror game of the time, which is the original Five Nights at Freddy's, the first one. When that came out, that was actually a phenomenally creative and effective game. But if you took that same idea of like, oh, you just open up the camera and there's an eyeball there, and put it in Five Nights at Freddy's, it wouldn't be as effective. And the reason is because you are constantly in that game going to different cameras and seeing creepy things. The reason it's like a standout moment in Iron Lung is because it's set up this context where you have not seen something that overt yet in the game. So that overt amount of like intimacy with whatever's out there trying to get you. It's like one of the only moments of direct visual horror that happens. I can give another example since I brought up Five Nights at Freddy's. I think one of the greatest jump scare executions of that era is when you have that moment where Foxy leaves the stage and runs and gives you a jump scare, game over. That moment is terrifying because it's the only time you ever see something moving on the camera. just the fact that something is running down the hall where for the rest of the game it's just been still images. Their immediate reaction is, of course, to like freak out. It's just brilliantly executed. And I think like back in the time, at the time that released, I remember that was like the moment you always watched the YouTubers to see their reaction to that, because it's just such an effective, brilliantly set up jump scare.
Oh god, where is she? Oh, for the love of dicks. Whoa! Oh!
That moment of brilliance makes the games unforgettable, makes the moment stick in our brains and allows us to make lasting memories of it. This is important to any game, as you want people to remember your game and say good things about it. If people feel something when they play the game, in my opinion, you have succeeded. If people feel scared when playing a horror game, that is when success is met. When people look back at your game with good memories, not stained by glitches and bugs, that's a good game. But what are some pitfalls that some games fall into, staining those good memories? As I mentioned before, glitches and bugs can really take away from the experience of any game. Either game-breaking or minor inconveniences, glitches are a big part of immersion-breaking experiences.
We're gonna go down to parts and services, and I'm gonna shove a beak inside of you, and you are going to be able to talk better. Did you hate the idea that much?
Yeah.
How is this possible? I don't understand, dude.
And also, why are you moving at a lower frame rate than anything else?
For the time off.
You gonna go forward or?
What do you mean? I'm right here.
What the fuck? You're floating, dog.
Yes.
What? Yes! What happened, Tio? What'd you do?
Did verifying files help? Yeah. Yeah, that's why we're sitting here playing the game.
You give him a little attitude.
No, you don't get to have us play a game until 95% finished and then crash it from there on out. 95%!
These experiences can make or ruin a game for people. However, excluding bugs and glitches, what are some other mistakes people make on making a horror game? Predictability. Predictability can ruin the experience for some people.
It certainly is more predictable now because people know that, when you close your vanity mirror, you close your medicine cabinet mirror, there's probably going to be something behind it. And now, because so many people have tried to subvert that, where there's like the buildup of the music and they shut the door, shut the mirror, and there's nothing behind it, people also now expect, well, there's probably nothing behind it. So, I think that it's not always bad to have predictable scares or predictable non-scares where you think there might be one. I think the audience usually likes a mixture of both. One thing that the genre could do better is kind of mixing in both predictable scares and unpredictable scares. Otherwise, people are always on edge, and then, if it's too unpredictable, they're always on edge and maybe not enjoying it quite as much. If it's too predictable, it'll be a little more boring, right? So I think mixing those together probably would be a good way to build a scary horror movie that engages multiple types of viewers.
Having a good mix of both can really elevate a horror experience. So why do people like horror? Some like it for the adrenaline, some for the thrill and suspense, and some just want to escape the world in another. Let's look at these reasons in more in depth to understand why people like horror. The adrenaline junkie. The adrenaline junkie often looks for the adrenaline rush and the sense of thrill it provides. Horror games in particular offer a unique interactive experience where players can immerse themselves in a terrifying world and confront their fears in a controlled environment. This immersive experience adds an extra layer of excitement and satisfaction to the genre. Unlike passive forms of entertainment like movies and books, horror games actively engage the player and create a heightened sense of immersion. By placing the player directly in the shoes of the protagonist, horror games allows them to experience the fear and tension firsthand. The player becomes a witness to the events unfolding within the game world, unable to influence the change in the outcome. This lack of agency adds to the intensity and suspense as the player must rely on their wits and instincts to survive. Escapism. Escapism is a common reason why people enjoy horror or games in general, as it provides a temporary break from the reality and offers a unique and thrilling experience. When engaging with horror, individuals willingly suspend their disbelief and enter a realm where the supernatural or terrifying events can occur. This suspension of disbeliefs allows them to experience a heightened sense of fear and excitement, distracting themselves from the constraints of reality. After all of this, I have just one question. Why horror? Why are people so obsessed with the unknown and their morbid curiosity? Why horror and not any other genre? Colton likes the horror genre because he's interested in why people love the genre too. Questioning why people love horror is as hard to answer as why people love FPS and MMORPGs. Okay then, if we can't answer why people love horror, let's ask why people make horror content. Some creators love the thrill and mystery behind games and make videos about it. Some make horror media because it's a way to calm their own anxiety down and a way to handle their own fears in a masterful creation of media like games and movies. But why do you like horror? What makes you interested in the genre? I've been Kane, I'm gonna go sleep. Go with something else.